Alrighty, well, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday. It's 11:12 on Saturday morning, Saturday, January the 4th, in the year of our Lord, 2025. That's what it is. I just had to check my phone. That's why the fingers were there. I was doing that to bring down another screen so I could double check the date and the time. Anyway, I like to watch. This may sound funny to some people, but I like to watch prison YouTubers who talk about prison and jail and whatnot. I like to watch that. And I find sometimes I gain some insights from these people. And I myself have a little bit of experience with jail. And so, again, I can relate at least to a degree to what these people talk about. And, what I notice is, and what I've noticed from my own experiences too, not just the experiences of these other people, is that, there's a certain way that authority figures manage people. There are certain techniques, there are certain things that they do to manage people. If you're running a jail, really your job is to manage people. You've got prisoners in the jail, you've got to manage them. You've got to you got to be able to manage the jail. You got to be able to maintain the security of the place and so on. So you have to be able to manage the people. And there are certain techniques that they will use to do that. And the thing is, when you've been to jail and then you've been in society as well, what happens is you know those techniques. You know them, because basically what happens in society is similar techniques are used, but on a larger scale, and in some cases in a different way. So, but they have different ways of manipulating people. They do it in jail, they do it in society too. Because again, the people who run society are really in the business of managing people, making sure that people are doing whatever it is they want them to do, making sure that people aren't going off in some direction they don't want them to, you see. Anyway, I was watching a YouTube video this morning, and I sometimes watch this guy. He's a big Negro man. His name is, they call him Big Herc, is what they call him. His YouTube channel is called Fresh Out. And he'll have guests on there. He'll interview people and whatnot. And he was interviewing a guy who had started out in the juvenile system in West Virginia, and then had graduated, if you can call it that, to the penitentiary in his later years, and had done time in the penitentiary. And of course, Big Herc himself had done juvenile time, and then he'd done penitentiary time as well. And so, Big Herc, I think he was from California, so things are a little different. When you're in the United States, especially, it changes quite a bit between the East Coast and the West Coast. It's quite a bit different. Apparently, the politics and racial stuff is a lot more in California. There's a lot more politics and racial stuff than there is in West Virginia. But the one commonality is the people who run these places are in the business of managing people. They're in the business of basically imposing their will on people. Whatever they decide would be best, that's what they want to see happening. And so they have to be able to manage people to do that. There's Rocky. I got to manage Rocky sometimes, and that's a job, I'll tell you. Rocky's not the easiest creature to manage sometimes. Anyway, there he is. I think he's going a little stir crazy in here. Really, he likes to be able to get out, but winter is not his time. It's tough on him. It's tough on me too, actually, so I understand. I know where he's coming from. But anyway, here's the thing. Here's the thing. When it comes to managing people, anyway, the techniques that are used in prison and jail and the techniques that are used in society really aren't that different. And anyway, just today, the thing that I watched with this man from West Virginia is the man from West Virginia brought up the issue of food and how in jail and in prison they create shortages. They do this on purpose, you know. They keep you hungry. They do that. You never get enough food. You get just enough food yet that you don't die. Hey, what's going on, Rocky? He's over there. He's meowing at something. Hey, what are you meowing at? Hey, okay, hold on. I'm going to get up and look. Is there something outside that I should know about? There has been stuff outside, I know that. Hey, what's going on with you? You're beautiful, you know. You're a beautiful creature. Well, I don't see anything outside. We did get a little more snow. In fact, I see it falling now. I don't see anything outside, but that certainly doesn't mean that there isn't anything outside. Yeah, hey, what are you up to? What are you up to, my good buddy? Hey, you're cute. You're very cute. Anyway, back to my story. Hey, there he is. He's a sweetheart. Back to my story, though. When you're in jail, they keep you hungry. And that is part of the control thing. And they will, basically they create shortages of food in a way because they ration food. And I know when I was locked up, I remember that you were always hungry. You get just enough food to keep you alive, but not enough food to keep you comfortable, And when you get your food, that's what you get. You don't get any extra. You get what you get. Everybody gets the same. It's measured out. It's literally measured out, and everybody gets the same. And like I say, it's just enough that you don't die. But it's not enough that you'll ever be comfortable. You're always going to be hungry. And see, controlling food and managing food is a way of managing people. Now, what this guy pointed out is, in society now, he's seeing how they're trying to manage the food. They're trying to ration food. They're trying to make it so that we can't get certain things. They're telling us that we're not going to be able to get meat. And they're using the environment as the excuse, which is a lie. But that's the excuse they're using, because the cows are farting and they're wrecking the atmosphere with their farts and all that. This is what you get. Well, here's the thing. They're telling that lie to justify rationing the food. Now, in jail, they don't have to lie to you to justify rationing food. They can just say, look, this is what you get, and that's it. They don't have to explain it to you. In jail, they don't have to explain anything to you. Because in jail, you really don't have any rights. Now, see, that's what they're trying to do with society, though. They're trying to condition society into a jail mentality. They're trying to run society like a jail. And part of that is to take away our rights. Because right now, the way it is, if you've got the money, well, actually not right now because they're creating shortages, but prior to them doing this, prior to them creating shortages, if you had the money, You could go into a supermarket and you could buy 24 T-bone steaks if you wanted them. You had to have the money to pay for them, obviously, but the only thing that limited you really was the amount of money you had in your pocket. If I go into a grocery store and I want to buy a couple of dozen T-bone steaks and I have the money to pay for them and the store has that many T-bone steaks in stock, I'm allowed to buy those. But if you're in jail and you get your tray, you eat what's on your tray and you're still hungry, you can't go back and get another tray. That's not, you'll be put in your place pretty quick if you try to do that. You'll be told, you've had your tray, get the fuck out of here. That's what you'll be told. You've eaten already. You don't eat twice. You can't do that. And see, that's what's happening now in society, or that's what they're pushing for. They want to control our food. And in jail, that's one of the ways they manage people, is they control food. And so that guy was absolutely right. I've been making a lot of connections between what I'm seeing happening in society and the control methods that I've seen used in institutions. And it's absolutely right what that guy said. I hadn't completely made that connection yet. I had made it in a loose sort of a way, but I hadn't made it in the way that he had made it. But what that man said is right. This emphasis on controlling the food supply. I knew that was about controlling the population, but I hadn't completely made the connection between that and how a jail is managed. But when he said that, right away a light came on in my head, and I said, he's right. That's exactly right. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Like I say, I was labeled incorrigible when I was 14, and I spent 7 months in a reformatory. And I was also, I spent some time in jail for a serious assault I committed on a man after he pulled a gun on me when I went to serve him with court papers related to a lawsuit where he had cheated me out of money when I bought a vehicle from him. And I tried to serve him with court papers, and he met me at the door by pressing a shotgun to my stomach. And I didn't like that. And anyway, he put the shotgun aside because I called his bluff, and I said, you're either going to shoot me or you're going to set the thing down. So which is it going to be? He set the thing down, and at that point, I hurt him. So I went to jail for that. So I have some limited experience, at least, with jail. And I know that that's one of the things they do is they control your food. That is one of the things they do. And by controlling the food, they control the population. He's purring away here. Anyway, the bottom line is nothing is happening by accident. All the stuff that we're told is just coincidence. It isn't. The fact that we've had 4 or 5 or 6 terror attacks in the United States, that they've had that happen in the United States just in the 3 or 4 days that have passed since New Year's Day. We're only 4 days into 2025. And they've already had all this crap happen. And it just coincides with the election of Trump, too. And I'm wondering what's going to happen. Would it be interesting to see as we get closer to Inauguration Day, which is January 20th, it'll be interesting to see what else happens anyway. And if the pace of these things doesn't pick up. I've heard that they're getting ready to declare another pandemic on January the 21st or whatever, the day after Trump gets in. Of course, that will be a way of keeping him busy, I guess, and throwing the country into another panic. He got fooled the last time. that was one area where he did get fooled with all his Operation Warp Speed and all that crap. I'm hoping that he'll be smarter this time and not get fooled by that. But then again, who knows? Maybe he's more in on it than I realize, too, eh? Like, I mean, we don't really know about these people. I know that the ones that were in there were no good because they were globalists. Just like our government in Canada is a globalist government and it's no good. But I would not want to say for certain that that Trump isn't somehow involved in things that, that aren't to our benefit, aren't for our good as people. Especially for American citizens. I'm not an American citizen, but I mean, still, what the United States does affect us here in Canada in various ways. Like I say, I know the people we had were no good. The people that were in there, Biden and Harris, they really did need to go. And I'm glad they're gone. And I do know, too, that last time when Trump was president, the United States did a lot better economically. And I think socially they were doing a lot better, too, under Trump, despite his mean tweets and all that. Anyway, I don't trust anything or take anything at face value, though. So as much as I have some optimism about Trump getting in, I don't think that we can just unconditionally and without reservation accept that that's all good either. Like I say, it can't be any worse than what's already been. And he does have a proven track record in the past, at least, for running the economy well and keeping control of immigration and stuff like that. So he deserves credit for that, whether you like him or not. You may not like him as a man, but he deserves credit for that. Anyway, the bottom line is, you can't take anything at face value, though, and you can't look to any person to save you. Because, even those who do mean well and who are sincere, even those people can be manipulated, they can be tricked, they can be used in different ways, even without knowing it. So, I mean, we got to always be aware. And also, the way things are, there's so much corruption within the system that even a sincere person who's trying to do, there we go. Okay. Even a sincere person who's trying to, oh gosh. Even a sincere person who's trying to do right in that situation is going to spend an awful lot of time and energy working against those who don't have good intentions. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Anyway, even a sincere person who wants to do right, who wants to, as Trump says, to clean out the swamp, even somebody like that is going to have to devote a lot of time and energy just to dealing with all that corruption, and they're going to come up against a lot of obstacles, and so they're not going to be able to do as much as they might like to do. So, I mean, even if we accept the idea that Trump is really what's needed, and actually I kind of think it is myself, but even if we accept that as the truth, he's going to be limited as far as what he can do because there's so much corruption. I mean, look, like you can be a strong person. I could be some professional fighter or something like that with, just 250 pounds of muscle and with all kinds of fighting knowledge and whatnot. But if I get into a street fight with a gang and there's like 6 or 8 or 10 guys, I'm going to get my ass kicked. If it's just me out there going up against that many guys, even no matter how great a fighter I am, and believe me, I'm not a great fighter, but I'm saying if I was some, 240 pound, 6'8" muscle bound machine, and I was a real fighter, if I just had all kinds of knowledge of different martial arts and different ways to hurt people, and I knew 10 different ways to kill a man with my bare hands and all the rest of it. If I had combat training and all the rest of it, if I'm going up against a gang of other men, even if each one of them is lesser than I am in that regard, even if each one of them is less strong and less skilled and so on, I'm going to get my ass beat, and I'm going to get my ass beat bad. So, like I say, I think you kind of have to look at it like that. Even if Trump is sincere, he's going to be limited as far as what he can do. Anyway, just by sheer numbers, he's going to be limited, because there's a lot more of them than there is of him, And so, yeah, the bottom line is, I still think that it's better than nothing, but it's still not great. And it's still not a great situation. It's just there's a little bit of hope now that wasn't there before, at least as far as I'm concerned, there is. Now, yeah, but right now we're living in a society that's based to a large degree on falsehoods and lies. And one of the reasons that Trump, of course, one of the reasons he isn't liked is because he's mean. He has a mean way about him. And he will say things that offend people. But again, I kind of think we need that, because there's too much delusional thinking right now. There's too many lies being agreed to by society. And so here's the thing. All this business with transsexualism and all that, there's such a push to force everybody to agree to that. And the reason is because a lie requires agreement. The facts don't, but a lie does. Look, you can stand a man and a woman beside each other naked, and you can clearly see the differences. You can go to the lab and you can take genetic samples from each of them, and a lab technician can look under a microscope, never having laid eyes on either person. And a lab technician can say this sample is from a male and this sample is from a female. And that's all they have to do is look at the genetic markers and they'll know. And so, those are facts, Those are facts that can't be disputed. Now, I'm not saying that people don't have feelings and that people don't sometimes. There may be people who identify as something other than what they physically and genetically are. But the bottom line is, when we're told that we're to accept it as a fact, if somebody feels a way or identifies a certain way, and we have to accept that what we're really being asked to do is we're being asked to corroborate on a falsehood. We're being asked to agree to a lie. That's what it boils down to. Look, if I go out with somebody, if I get into a car with another individual and we go to such and such a place and we do such and such a thing, and we're not concerned if anybody knows that we went there and we did that, well, then we don't get together. We don't put our heads together and say, okay, what's our story going to be? Let's agree on a story in case we're asked. We don't do that because there's no reason to. All we got to do is tell the truth if we're asked. Who cares? We're not concerned about it. We don't care if anybody knows what we did. I don't care if people know that I got into your car and I went to such and such a place with you and I did such and such a thing with you. Couldn't care less. Ask me about it and I'll tell you the truth. But the thing is, if I know that I did something I shouldn't have done, or if I feel that way, if I feel like I've done something I shouldn't have done, well, then I got to concoct a lie. And I've got to get the other person who I did this thing with, whatever it was, whoever they are and whatever it was, to agree to that lie. So I have to have a meeting with them and I have to say, okay, this is our story. So if you're asked, this is what you need to say. And I got to get them to agree that that's what they'll say if they're asked. You see. But that's the thing. You don't need to have a meeting to settle on a cover story if you're going to tell the truth. It's people who are involved with things they shouldn't be involved with who need to do that. It's people who need to lie to cover up what they're actually doing that need to do that. And that's the thing about a lie or a falsehood or whatever you want to call it, an untruth, whatever. And these things need a whole infrastructure of deceit to support them. Like basically, and then one lie will lead to another lie because you got to protect the lie that you've told. So now you're telling a lie in order to protect yourself from repercussions from something you've done. You're screwing around on your wife. You're committing crimes, whatever it is. You're robbing banks. You and another guy are going out. You're robbing banks together. Like I say, you're screwing around on your wife or whatever. You need to make up a cover story. And so you may go, say, if you're screwing around on your wife, you may go to your best friend and you may say, hey, if my wife asked you where I was last Saturday, I want you to tell her that you and I went fishing. And he may agree to that. You see, that's the thing. A lie has to be concocted and agreed to. And then, if my wife calls and says, hey, where was Tom? Hey, were you with Tom on Saturday? Oh, yeah, we went fishing together. Oh, okay. Yeah, he said that's what you did. Just checking, And that may get me out of the doghouse then when I was really off, laid up in some motel somewhere with somebody I shouldn't have been with, Same thing if we're doing bank robberies together. Let's say you and me and 3 other guys are doing bank robberies together. Then we got to concoct a story. If the cops come around asking, what do we say? Well, this is what we say, and we all agree on it. This is our story. If we're asked, this is what it is. You don't have to do that if you're going to tell the truth. You don't have to have that meeting and come to that agreement about the truth, because the truth just is. So even that, the fact that there's so much pressure now in society to agree to things that are falsehoods, to agree to things that don't really make a whole lot of sense if you think about it for very long. Again, that's another part of the controlling of people, and the fact that we're required to agree to certain things, and we're required to collectively agree that this is our story. You don't have to collectively agree to tell to the truth. You don't have to collectively agree to facts. In fact, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Tom, I'm going to need you to say such and such about such and such a thing, that automatically raises my suspicions. I look at that and say, okay, what's going on here? Why am I being asked to say a specific thing? Because look, if we're being truthful, then you don't need to ask me to say anything. If I'm asked about it, I'll just tell the truth. So if it's a situation, say, where so-and-so is late for work and I work with that person, but maybe I work on a different shift or something, so I'm not always there when they're there. And it was a situation, say, where they were working days and I was working nights, and they come to me and they say, hey, Tom, if the boss asked you, then, that day I was late for work, I'm going to need you to say that my car broke down and that I called you to come and help me, and that, it took the two of us hours to get the car running again before I could get into work. I'm going to need you to say that. Well, I mean, if that actually happened, obviously I'm going to remember it. The guy's not going to have to come to me and ask me to say that, because that's what happened. If the boss does come to me and say, hey, Tom, do you know anything about that day so-and-so was late? I'm going to say, oh, because I know you're buddies, you hang out together and whatnot. Do you know anything about why he was late that day? I'm going to say, oh, yeah, I know all about that. He called me up at home. I was just getting ready to go to bed after working my shift. He called me up. He told me he was heading into work and his car broke down and he needs some help. So I went out there because I'm his friend. I went out there and I helped him get the car going again. Took us about 3 hours to get that damn car running again, but we did it, and he proceeded on into work, you see. But he's not going to have to come and ask me to say that if that's what happened, because I know that's what happened, and I'm just going to say that if I'm asked. He only has to ask me to say that if he was actually doing something else when he was supposed to be at work, and now he's trying to cover his tracks with the boss, you see. And that's the thing. Anyway, society, there's a lot of that going on in society now, though, where we're being asked to tell a cover story. We're being asked to go along with a falsehood. And we're being asked to agree that this is what it is, even though we know darn well it isn't. And that's the thing anyway. So I'm seeing a lot of that in society too now. I'm seeing how they're creating shortages. They're generating fear. These are all things that are done in order to make people more compliant, so that they will give up and they'll give in, and they'll do as they're told. Same techniques are used in a prison or a jail. They're just used in a more obvious way, because in a prison or a jail, the administration doesn't really have to explain itself to a prisoner. In society, there's still a certain need, at least in our society, because we haven't gone completely totalitarian yet, although we're moving in that direction rapidly. And we are more totalitarian now than we've been in the past. There's still a certain need on the part of authority, on the part of power, to explain itself to the people. But they're trying to eliminate that. They want to make society more like a prison or a jail, where they can just do whatever, and you have no say. If you're a prisoner, well, that's just how it is. And, they don't have to explain themselves to you. Anyway, that's it. Rocky's at the end of the bed sleeping on my leg. There he is. Yeah. All right. We'll see you later.